Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. I am your host. Lynn Smith, location manager for Stargate SG-1, is joining us for this episode. I'm really excited to have her and her perspective on. She was a critical player throughout much of Stargate SG-1's production, and she was involved in the Stargate Continuum shoot up in the Arctic. So we're going to have some interesting stories to share with her, for her to share with us. She is the wife of Stargate executive producer John Smith, and I'm delighted to have her. So here we go. This is a pre-recorded episode, so the moderators will not be taking questions. I hope you enjoy. Lynn Smith, location manager, Stargate SG-1, seasons 2 to season 7. Lynn, this is a treat to have you because it's hard for me to get people from behind the camera because they're like, hey, I'm used to being back here doing my thing. No need to point a camera at me. But you guys were so critical to the production of one of the biggest franchises, sci-fi franchises, that have ever existed. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with me.
Well, you're welcome. Didn't feel as important as that introduction when we were working because we just work. Lots of people higher than me, but sure.
You know, when you look back on that body of work, you were in this industry for around 10 years. Does it feel like it was that much of a span of time, or was it always just, we got to get to the next thing, okay, some break, some vacation over here, now we're back to it? What does that time frame in your life feel like when you look back on your career with Stargate?
Well, ask me now, and this year it feels like I was in that industry longer.
Yeah.
But now the time is longer than that I've been out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always feel like that was my life, and that's where I sat the longest. But in hindsight, looking, back at the years, it's not. We've done so much afterwards now, and moved on. That yeah, it doesn't. I didn't realize it was so short.
Right. Were you a fan of the show? Did you and John watch it? Or was it?
John definitely would have been. He was in. I'm not a huge sci-fi person, but if there was any sci-fi I was going to watch, it was that one. I think it was really well written. I loved the actors, characters, and I was a part of it. But to be honest, now that I can't get fired as a result of this comment, I don't think I ever watched one on TV from beginning to end.
Okay.
I would.
You were busy making it.
Snippets of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You were busy making it. So watching snippets here and there when you could catch it, I completely get that.
Yeah, and watching snippets, I was like, is there a butt bucket in the shot? Can I see anything wrong? So you're not getting the flow of the show. And to be quite honest, it throws you off a bit watching it as a show because I will see a location and then I see the plane take off and we're somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, but we're not. We're right next door at that next house.
Absolutely. The magic is never going to be 100% there for you because
right.
You watched the cake get baked.
That's right.
You didn't just get to eat it like the rest of us.
That's right.
And it's interesting now on Wormhole Extremists, which is our sister show, we're going through and doing commentaries for every episodes. One of the things that we do on purpose is pick the show to pieces. So, there's a script in that shot. Oh, we're on another planet, but there's a van driving by way off in the distance there because it's a new way for us to view the show and see it in a new light. And also, we just, fans love Easter eggs. So whether intentional or not.
Those fans are good.
They are loyal. So
they are loyal.
You had a huge job as location manager. And I would love to hear step by step how you went through a script, because one of the nice things about Vancouver, especially in those early years, is you had some varied landscape options, especially with the sand dunes, which I don't even think exist anymore. And if you could turn Vancouver into a lot of different things. Tell me about, before I get into that, how did you find Stargate? How did you get involved with this show? What's the story there?
Well, John and I were already together prior to Stargate, but we were working some shows together, but we were working independently. And I was still for sure going up the ranks. I started as a production assistant, assistant location manager. So it was just at the cusp there. John was going on the show. It was an opportunity. They did need somebody in locations. So finding it through that sort of realm, and it would work perfect for us. If he took it and there was an opening and a situation for me, it makes life easier, family easier, holidaying easier. So that's how I got on to Stargate, is if he's taken it and his wife can get on, it would work. Is there an opening there? So it was choices at the time.
Yeah.
Glad we did it because it had such a long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as the job being so hard, yes, it was, and it had its challenges, but I had a great team. I had the likes of Jamie Lake, who was fantastic and charismatic and great at the job. I had, later on, after a few years, I had Terry Brooks as a location scout. And I think she's just retired, but she went on for many more years after that, and she was fantastic at it. And so the team was great. We had wonderful production assistants, often many of them. So, yeah, I had good people at my back.
When someone hears, like me, a layman, location manager, my first thought is you pick the location, but it's more complicated than that. Can you give us a rundown of your duties and the things that you would allocate out to your assistant location and to Lake and for instance and so forth? How would that unspool?
Okay, so in the early years when things were just starting up, we didn't know how long it was going to go, and maybe things were smaller, lighter. It was Jamie and I. So yeah, everybody assumes I find all the locations, but Jamie's a big part of that. I send my assistant out. From the beginning, I read the script. I run down the hall. I talk to the likes of production designers, producers. Sometimes the director's not in town at that point, but the writers, what they envisioned. Sometimes the writers later on the later years would say, when you get to this location, this is what I was writing it around or for or envisioning. So they're almost setting you out the door to say, okay, I'll see if we can get it for those dates. Sometimes if the scene was small and there was a larger scene, we would concentrate maybe on a house that we could blow up, but we know that we needed another look of a house. Well, we're going to have to piece that together in the same neighborhood. We don't want to move all the trucks and all of this. So I would send Jamie, so we do that in the office, myself as the head of department with other heads of department, and they would give me a picture of where I'm going. Sometimes they'd say, try and keep it close to the studio because the rest of it is all in the studio. That I would then send Jamie out and say, look, we're looking for this particular house, but we also have a school. So try and find them close together. Go find the school. We'll have parking for the trucks there. We'll be inside the school, find the house in that neighborhood. So, some teamwork. So then he would go out and look for it. Later on, that was all Terry Brooks' job. Because it was so busy and doing both episodes, Jamie would be on set. I would need a separate scout for the locations. And then they would bring it back to me and I would shortlist it. And then I would bring that short list when I knew that this house doesn't work because it's too far out or nowhere to park the circus, as we called it, or it's, it's a one-way in and is not going to work. Yeah. So I shortlist it, and then I'm bringing, and at that time we didn't have digital, it was file folders with pictures all taped together, and you would go boop, 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 and you would have that panoramic. So then I would bring that to the writer that wrote that episode. John's sitting at the helm, production designer, all of this. And then we would often narrow it down to maybe 3. Sometimes they knew right away, yes, that's it. But sometimes we would nail it down to 3. And then we would go on a survey and see which one would really work, because you have to see it.
Of course. Absolutely. You have to be there in person. When you're first handed that script, when you begin the process, how many days, weeks out, ideally, from shooting are you?
Oh, sometimes overlapping. Okay. They were really, it was fine-tuned. So it's not like sometimes, you're hearing that we don't even have the next script. kind of knew, even if it wasn't on paper or hand it to you, you're talking in the office. The writers are across the hall from me. So they're saying, hey, coming up in a couple episodes, we're going to be doing something in the snow, or there's going to be a big camping scene or whatever.
Yeah.
Or because we knew it was Stargate, we'd say in a couple episodes, we know we're going to the dunes.
Right. Absolutely.
So you start the conversation. So I was given good lead time on where I was going, what I was doing, but sometimes those episodes were a lot of locations, location heavy, and some ahead of time they'd say this is location heavy, but the next one's going to be all in the studio. So you had time to come up for air or to work on the one after that.
It seems when we look back at these shows that it was very much a mix of, okay, this episode is almost or is exclusively off-world. That you could anticipate that the next one was probably going to be in-house. You get the sensation just in terms of the ebb and flow of a season, that at the beginning of the season they're going to spend a lot of money, then it's going to go down a little bit. They're going to do typically some more budget refined episodes. Then the mid-season comes up, we're going to give a bigger boom there, and it does the same thing on the back end of the season with a bigger finale. So was that am I kind of getting it right in terms of the ebb and flow of a season in terms of budget? I'm sure you are
getting it right.
Okay.
I'm sure you are getting it right. And in terms of budget, and that's going to be more where John steps in with some answers. I didn't see it as that. I was just too into what I needed to do for locations. And as you say, the locations wasn't the hard part often, especially years down the road, because we already knew we're going back here. We're going back here. We're going back. We knew where things parked, who to talk to with the city reps. The hard part was if it was production assistant heavy. At the time, you had a hard time getting maybe 20 production assistants because you're going to be on Robson Street. Or you're talking to the liaisons for the city. And as you know, much of our show was gunfire and explosions. That was the hard part because you had to get their blessing. If we're going to the dunes, that's me talking to the tower at the airport for flight path. And believe it or not, yes, sometimes they would work in our favor.
Wow.
So not with the big stuff, but they could keep the small stuff away from us, right?
Wow,
or they would tell us if, oh, you're going to run into a problem that day because they had something going on, whether it be training or winds, whatever. So that's the part that people don't see. They see the location manager, you find the locations. Well, no, my assistants and my scouts find the locations. Mine is often in the office heavy and dealing with all the reps from the cities, the liaisons, the towers, gunfire. You know, it started in my 10 years in film that you could just call that in. But a few years later, you had to have a police officer on set, even if there was a gun visible, even if it was plastic, rubber, otherwise, because of an incident that happened. So, you know, you had to get, it was booking all your people.
It makes sense that regulations evolve as you move forward. You know, I've been talking with fortunate to talk with a number of different people in different arenas of the back end of this process, and things just aren't done the same way, you know, from decade after decade. Things are refined, some things are added, some things are taken away, but the process is streamlined as you move forward. So this is really cool. So you've selected your locations. So John and his team, production, they give their blessing on it. Are you there for principal photography or on these locations to, you know, rub elbows and grease, you know, gears and things like that? Where do you fall in when the cameras are rolling? Or are you busy working on the next episodes?
I am busy working on the next episode. And again, that's the harder part than filming now. It's all set. The trucks are parked, but I always would because it's a long day and Jamie and I had to overlap. Yeah. So often, and I'm still as a result an early riser, but often I would take the early shift before 5 a.m. I do want to go down there as a location manager. It's my responsibility and my conversations with the rep and my, you know, organizing, putting up those signs, no parking. And I want to know when the cameras are rolling at 7 a.m., they actually can roll, or the trucks can get in. So I typically would go early in the morning, make sure the trucks can get in, or if it was the night before parking, the trucks are parked. I want to make sure it's set up ready for, and often we could be there for a day, but we could be there for several days. So I want to know the cones are lined up along the circus on the street. I want to know that the PAs showed up. I want to know that simple things like the garbage cans and bucket, they're set up and we're ready to go for this day or days. And then Jamie would come in typically at call, say if it was 7 a.m. on a Monday, he would come in, I would overlap, we'd have conversations, how I want the day to go, what my promises were to the reps, what we talked about on the survey. And he would be there at 7, I would be there at 7, I'd overlap maybe an hour, grab that delicious breakfast, and then I'd head to the office and off I go to the next episode.
Gosh, man, oh man. How often, because you go back and you watch the show, and you watch from shot to shot. One side, sunny or cloudy. The other side, rain. And they're doing a pretty good job of hiding it, but it's definitely raining. How often would rain be an issue for production? How often did you have to change plans? How often was it like, we can't shoot today? We have to, is there any, set stuff that we can, it's, how often would that be a problem, Lynn? I'm really curious.
Not my issue now. No, I wouldn't say it really
talk to the big guy upstairs.
They were more scrambling. I wouldn't say it affected myself personally or my job a lot. I mean, they know we're in Vancouver. They know it rains. They know it rains and then stops. They know it's not always scheduled and it can start. So I think they had it dialed in that they already always had that in their back of their mind. What if? Or the locations are picked, week prior, and now you can't flip some things. You can't say we're not going to be outside the art gallery because that day is outside and inside and we're booked with them. You can't just say we're going to flip there till tomorrow. That doesn't work for them. So often they could change things in the day. Okay, let's go inside instead of starting out and hope it subsides if it's absolutely coming down. But they have the means and the technology to cover up, or they're quick on paper and in their heads that, okay, you're not going to walk from the door to the car, it's pouring out, you're just going to stand and do that scene standing at the door or inside the door now. But I don't think we actually had to ever change days. We can flip hours, or morning, afternoon and morning. Snow maybe a little bit more. There's often I would, and John was hands-on, so he often had a shovel and was helping it. Wow. So you can move it.
The team players.
Yeah, so I would say if they had to do that in a real pinch, it's just moving it from outside scene to now it's inside. Close the blinds.
One of the things that I love, it was probably just something that you just internalized from the beginning to, the time and the picking of location. If you can make one space look like many spaces, you're going to save on time, you're going to save on budget, you're going to save on the number gasoline. I remember we just watched in Wormhole Extremists an episode from season 4, and I'm 40 now, so the episodes don't fly in my brain as much anymore. I used to have these things just on a Rolodex in my brain, and the episode was, because I want to have it, Chain Reaction, and in it, you have Senator Robert Kenzie's house, played by Ronnie Cox, and you had either Hammond's house or his child's house in this episode. And we went back, and one is a pretty the behind the house. There's a lake, there's a lot of shrubbery, and then the other house, it looks like it has Greek columns. It looks like it could be like a government building. It's the same building. The same one. You just use the same location for two different ones. And
always. You have to. You can't keep moving hundreds of people and hundreds of feet of trucks to stand at a door and do a talking scene. Yeah. And I would say that's, where I kind of prided myself. it was where I tasked myself to go, oh, we're at a school and then there's a house and then there's a parking lot. I really want that circus to stay parked.
Right.
And I feel that I did a good job at that, but there's lots of opportunities to do it. And that's why I would start with where the bigger the locations was. So if it's a school, obviously it has to be now worked on a day that they're out, or in an area of the school that they're not, and you're not hearing kids outside at recess and bells and everything. So that would be my concentration. Once I found that, we can find a house. We can find a house in that neighborhood, or we can find a church. Because 5 days a week, the church is quiet. We can figure that out. So that's how I started with the location of where we were at. And if we can get several locations in one stop for those trucks, obviously a lot we were moving those trucks, or we'd have the bulk of the trucks in one place and we would just have to move maybe the camera truck, and so that is the task of a location manager, is figuring out that aspect. You've got to get a lot of hours done in a day. You don't want to waste it on a move, but inevitably there are moves in a day. And even now there's a local film in town and I look and I see, wow, why would they be moving 2 and 3 times in a day to go from house to house? Because I don't think that's always necessary. Now, maybe their hands are tied and they're saying, no, we want that particular house.
Right.
And we want that particular house that's 10 miles away. But
is it really necessary, though? I mean,
is it necessary?
How much can you save to put toward other things? And not just money, but time,
Right.
How often would a pickup need to be done at a location where you'd have to reach out and schedule more time at a place? Did it ever happen? I would think from time to time that would be, we need this shot. We didn't get this. Or something has changed. We have to go back to this spot.
Yes. Yes, we often had to do that. I don't think it was ever a huge hiccup to go back. I mean, you could still say we missed this scene or something didn't look right when they watched the dailies or otherwise, and you have to go back. But they typically would go back with a second unit or a handheld camera to do something if it was doable. If it was an actor, again, that's more the producers, because now you're bringing that actor back or having to ask that actor if he's even free, or is he gone on to another show. But they did a great job of it too. It could be having a voiceover of the actor, but he's off camera now instead of on camera.
Wow. It's a magic. Lot of movie magic. It's a lot of moving parts. I would imagine that dealing with public entities versus private individuals would be a little different. One of the big locations that at the GateCon, for the GateCon events, that was always in the circulation for the bus tours was Carter's house. It's a private residence. When you approach a private residence for a house, what's the policy? Do you just knock on the door and slip an envelope, under the door if we miss you, saying, hey, we'd like to consider this house for our location. Here's the budget we're looking at. Here's the money we're offering you for a time. What was the process for, I want to get to public in a little bit and government, but what was the process for a private home?
Yeah, pretty much you nailed it. It would be now if we just knew we wanted a house in that neighborhood, because like I said, we had already needed that school or the church or whatever, we would just, Jamie or Terry or a PA would, I would draft the letter up saying, we are filming this show, and always throw in names of the actors. It stars Richard Dean Anderson, and we've been on our second or third season, and we are looking for a location in the neighborhood that calls for a house. Now we would do it to the whole block, maybe in the vicinity of what we're trying to marry with. Sometimes we're not trying to marry with something, but we're going to like all the houses on that street, because if you like this house, typically the neighborhood is similar. And we don't know if it's going to work until we go inside, because if they're hoarders, it's not going to work. Or if the house is very chopped up, it's not going to work. Or if they, China and stuff we can take out, but some things you can't change. So you don't know from the exterior if the interior works. We might need a backyard, and I can't see the backyard from just not meeting the people yet. So we do the block, or block both sides, and then Terry would often take all those fronts of the houses, and we'd see a few that they would like, and that now she's knocking on the door. Hi, we put out a letter a couple days ago. Did you get it? Yes, no. Well, here's what we're up to. And then we get a yes or no. And sometimes it's just an absolute no. Oh yeah, with twin month-old babies not being inconvenient. There's a wedding, they're leaving town, whatever. So then it starts narrowing it down, and we find the house. But Carter's house those people were fantastic. Thank goodness, because you always go into a location thinking you're using it possibly once or twice, and then it becomes a reoccurring location. Right. The cabin that Rick always went to. So you find the location, and then you're blessed if the people aren't crazy and they're easygoing, and it all worked out, and we can move and groove in there with cameras and dollies and all this kind of stuff. So
I would imagine, in a situation where you have a really amazing spot, you would want to be able to, you wouldn't want to be in a position where you'd have to, or one of your people would have to tell the writers, I know you really want to go back to that location, but they hated this process. We're not going to get it again. We're going to have to find something similar.
I have to say this. I've never had that comment where they've hated the process. I've had the comment where we're moving.
Oh no!
Go and see a for sale sign. You're like, oh no, let's hope the next people want us. But we've never been really,
okay.
The crew was fantastic.
You didn't tear up our walls with tape,
I was strict. I was strict. I was younger then, and I've relaxed a bit now, but I was really strict. I would not be happy if I walked in there and something was not protected, or they decided, oh, we're not going to go that way with camera. We're going to go this way. And now that wasn't the plan. So that room wasn't protected or whatever. Yeah. But it happens. It happens. I mean, I remember starting in this industry, and when John and I were working together, they sometimes would want to just, hey, we're just gonna go down to the seawall and do this one scene of the guy walking. It's like guerrilla warfare. It's like, no, you can't do that anymore. But they lived in the day you could just grab a camera and out you go. And when I started, those days were over. And of course, it's on my name that signs at the city. So no, we don't just change direction and gears and run out with the camera. I need to make a call. And usually asking it worked. They'd say, yeah, no worries. Thanks for letting me know. But they didn't like when all of a sudden public would call and say, hey, did you know there's a film crew down here? No, they were supposed to be here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But sometimes the camera ran faster than me.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Now, so that's private individuals and private homes. Was the process for public spaces, for private businesses, and government spaces? Can you tell me about those kinds of situations, and how different were they? Or was it pretty much the same thing?
No, much more challenging. Okay. Much more challenging because they often are giving a certain corner of their space, or they're allowing you to come into their space knowing that there's still public around. They may not be in the room that we're giving to you, but you're going to hear them in the background, or there's a door opening and closing, or people forget, oh, the guy was coming to fix the alarm today, or to fix something that's noisy in a drill, and then you're dealing with stuff that wasn't expected on the day, and you're running around. And I can't tell you how many times, and it happens in public, private homes as well. Everybody starts up the lawnmower on the day just to get some money. But I can't tell you how many times I've said to Jamie, run and give them a Stargate hat, run and chat, because he was on radio. He knew when they were rolling and cutting, and he would sit with them and chat and go, okay, guys, stop the drills. Stop the this, stop the that.
Someone would start at some point, theoretically, a lawnmower in order to get a payout for them to stop?
They would start things so that you would buy them out and say,
wow, what gall.
Oh yeah, it's the leaf blower, it's the lawnmower. Yes, it would happen. It would happen.
I would think that you would have to have like a piggy bank set aside for things like that, just for like incidentals for overhead. I'm sure every episode had them. You
Well, they
have
wanted
unforeseen
money, and
circumstances.
yeah, they wanted money.
Yeah,
But then we outsmarted that, and Stargate was quite popular. So they would love to have a Stargate hat.
yeah,
The guys doing a job, I don't know, for some other company, they would love to have a case of beer at the end of the day.
sure.
So we reinvented, instead of always handing out money, we would just have GAC. And Jamie was a gem at this. He has gift of the gab. He's very charismatic, as I say, and he was very good at that.
That's awesome to have resourceful people on your team who are like, okay, dollars are not always the answer. We have a popular show now. What else can we do to accommodate people? Because you don't want to. I mean, you're interfacing with the public constantly. You don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth. The word gets around town.
Yeah.
I would imagine so. Yeah. Did you have just a Rolodex of contacts after a while, in terms of places, in terms of locations? I imagine you documented everything, names, they like sushi, wow, contact. Wow.
I am very list orientated.
Yeah.
And I'm very organized. So everything, every season, every episode, like you rolling off this person's house, that person's house, when you did this scene, that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
Many years later, I couldn't tell you, even referring, I'd be looking at this. But I always had this. So when they would say, hey, Lynn, back when we did In the Line of Duty, we were at someone's house. Can you see if we can go back there? I would just pull out my cheat sheet, look at it. Well, now there's not a house, but it was
a hospital. It should be.
Yeah, Shaughnessy Hospital. Look at you. Wow.
Yeah, in the Line of
Shaughnessy Hospital and Bunsen Lake, prisoners, Bunsen Lake, gamekeeper, Fox Glove Farms, Blowdale Conservatory.
Yeah.
So I could roll off of this. I have the contact's name and number. I have all my cheat sheets, who I had to go through, what incident might have happened that we could be running into again. So I have it all. I have it all here. And then it came in handy when I started doing after I left bus tours.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm sure that those relationships, there's nothing wrong with networking, especially if you connected with someone and it's like, okay, this is a great human being. This is a great person. We have this coming up. I'd really like to use them again because A, I'd like to give them another opportunity, but B, they're great to work with,
Yes.
I suspected that
Or
happened.
even just the neighborhood dynamics. So if there was another house and I knew that we had filmed at this particular house on this street, and there was a church that was great for parking, and the neighbors were fantastic, and the guy next door let us put the caterers, instead of a tent for eating, we used his empty, beautiful, big garage. Then the next time I had a house, I'm looking on that street. I can't have the same house, but I could be down the street and know where my parking is already going, where the tent is already going. The people are nice. It makes it easier.
Yeah.
Call it cheating, but that's what you do. That's what you're supposed to remember and do.
Mel Harris once we had Mel Harris on, played Oma DeSala. She said, we're illusionists, as long as you change things just enough,
right?
The most fastidious person probably won't tell. And at the end of the day, you're making it work. So
just turn around the camera and you're in Colorado.
Just no big bodies of water.
Look at that. Trucks didn't move.
That's it. No, I was amazed when I would go to Bridge, how many locations were just right there. There's a coffee shop in season 7 where Amanda Tapping goes to meet David DeLuise. And in the shot, you can see the red girders of the studio in the background because the coffee shop was right there. The crew was probably there all the time. Right.
Yeah, the Stay and Save was a motel scene. A minute later, it was coffee shop, not supposed to be right there, but it was right there. And then a scene on the roof. and coming out of the studios, and the trucks didn't move from our Bridge Studios lot. Yeah, that's money at its best.
Absolutely. Were the local government, were they really typically easy to work with? Was I imagine as Stargate got more name recognition as it went forward, things were things easier to pull off? Were there places that you just could never get?
Nope. Money buys everything. So spend a little money here and less here. I mean, yes, there were some we couldn't get because of dates or timing. Some other film crew was there, or it didn't make sense that we really want to be here, but we really want to be there. It's in the same episode, and too much in a day. We'd change that up. We'd think we're doing that, and then we'd say, oh, camera needed a little bit more money, so something's changing in location. We're not going to that house. We're going to build it in studio. Things like that happen, for sure. The more studio, the easier for me.
For sure.
Right? So, and these reoccurring, GVRD and stuff. I love my GVRD reps, and the Burnaby rep at the time, I don't know who's sitting in the chair now, but was easy, and that was our home in Burnaby. So if we stuck close to the studio, that the trucks could be there, we could be going back and forth, that rep was fantastic. And the more years you're in the game on that same series, the easier it got, right? Because now people know you. Now people know it's a popular show. Now you're a priority. Some challenge following, if you want to do something simple and all of a sudden you find out that a feature film was there a week before and paid 3 times as much as you're capable of, that was hard to follow. You're talking about buying people out. I remember being in Fort Langley. Don't think he's still there. So without saying too much of a name, it was a pizza place, and he was just going to say that he was losing out on a ton of business. He wasn't. And he was just saying that. And we thought, well, he wants thousands of dollars. Well, we'll outsmart him. What I did is I went in there and I bought pizzas. I said, well, how many pizzas would you say? Well, I probably like 30 pizzas. I could, okay, you know what? We'll take 30 pizzas. I'll take them tonight and I'll put them all out. And that was a treat for the crew.
Absolutely.
But at least he's getting his money. He wasn't happy, but it's like, you're getting your money. You just said $300 or whatever.
This is what you said.
Yeah.
This is what you just said.
Coffee shop's the same. Flower shops, I would just say, well, how much do you think you're out? Well, at least $300. Okay, can I have $300 in gift certificates? They'd like, but now I have gift certificates to give to some neighbors as a thank you, or somebody that's doing something kind, or a crew member. We started to outsmart them.
Talk about rolling with the punches. That's just how you do it. No, you have to, and yes, it is like outsmarting like their position, but in the same time, you're taking care of them. I can't tell you how many times, Lynn, I have been up in Vancouver. I call a location because I want to do a little bit of photography at a spot. And they're like, who are you with? I'm like, well, I'm with myself now, but I'm going because this was used as a Stargate location. I cannot tell you how many times the people on the phone are like, oh, I remember Stargate. They were great.
Yes.
And it gets me in because you guys were, you took care of people, you made it work.
Yeah. And, I'm just going to toot John's horn. He picked a lot of that crew, and a lot of the crew followed him around because he was a good boss. And I don't think very many people can say very many bad things about him. Yeah. So, accolades to him for picking a good crew, but they were respectful. They were good. And as I say, you start working that was my family. I saw more of them than my own family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just gets easier as far as, okay, we know that personality. We know we need to dance around them, or we know that guy's really grumpy in the morning. Just don't set him off. You get to know people, but we were family.
What are some of your favorite locations from the show? You mentioned the GVRD. That's the Greater Vancouver Recreational District. I want to get to the Arctic. But
I wasn't a location manager, on the North Pole.
Absolutely. I'm going to get to that. So the Greater Vancouver Recreational District, am I saying that right? I think
GVRD, yes.
Yes. That was used a lot for forests and... was that one department? Was that one group of people who managed that whole area? Was that one contact?
No, there was a couple, and it depended. It was basically one guy, and in fact, I don't think the crew cared for him. He was really, really strict, really strict. Like if he caught somebody going just a little bit over the speed limit, they were out. Like
wow,
if
he
somebody
was king of his hill.
Yeah, somebody like one of the guys who got peeing in the morning or something on a tree, he'd have a fit, and everybody'd be going, "Is he kidding? Like there's deer and bear and doing all this stuff." I said, "I know, but he is like the rookie cop. You have to abide by his rules. He just doesn't like that you could, dishonor his rules." He and I got along because I knew to baby him. Jamie was great with him. I think like they were buddies. So he liked Jamie and I. So
it's the people. It's the people that you put in front of the people. You want to get the people who are compatible.
Yeah. Well, the crew didn't have to get that location the next time. So they didn't have to play to his rules all the time. But it was a reoccurring location.
Yeah.
And sometimes we would have to have talks and put it out there saying, guys, GVRD is important to us. This guy needs us to respect his rules. Absolutely nobody is to speed. And it would go like this. And then there was times where we had to park down by the gate, like as a punishment, because instead of being able to drive to set, and then people realize, I better slow down or else I don't get to drive to set. I have to park, down in a parking lot.
It's a good solution. I get where he's coming from.
Yes.
The dudes.
But we figured it out, over the years and over the times going there a lot. We were probably his favorite crew.
Yeah, no, well, you guys did a lot of business there, so.
Yeah, we did.
The dunes, correct me if I'm wrong. So this is a patch of largely sand that was near the airport, if I'm not mistaken. And what I was told was that it got smaller and smaller with each passing season as either it was zoned out or something was changed. And
it was an auto mall or something last time. I remember one time, probably on a bus tour, because when I put them together, I sometimes would drive around, make sure things looked the same or you could have access or the roads were the same access. And I remember going there going, what? And it was full of, I wouldn't even say cars. It was like an auto mall of big, huge trucks and buses and all of this. And I thought, well, we can come here and they can see, hey, look what happened here.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is today. I should take one of these tours and go around, see which locations are still around. But favorite locations, Stokes Pit I liked. That was, South Surrey, 192 and 24th. I like the locations that made it easy for me. So if the trucks could park once, and if the neighborhood was friendly, and if the noises weren't around, I liked it.
Made a lot of sense. There were some cool ones. You guys had in 1969, you went to an observatory. And that was in the location tour as well. The name is escaping me at this moment. But before I get to the Arctic, what was it like doing the location tours?
By the way, I love 1969.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it was fun.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of running around here, there, and everywhere, but it was fun. It was really fun. We had fun doing that.
Going cross country in America. It's like, how can we make these locations look this way? So
it was fun.
It's illusion.
Some of the challenging ones, like the art gallery, I love the rep there, but it had a lot of surprises on the day, and parking was a challenge. And there's one I wouldn't sleep the night before because you never knew what was. I loved when the trucks parked the night before.
Because you were ensconced.
Well, then if there's any surprises, you have time to deal with it. But when the trucks were pulling in at 5 a.m., I don't know, on a Monday when everybody might have been downtown over the weekend and drank and left their car there and didn't see the sign or whatever. And now I've got tow trucks and you legally couldn't tow a vehicle, even though we had signs saying do not park here, film crew coming in. We couldn't tow them unless they were ticketed, like to a tow yard. So what I would do is I would tow it down the street out of our way so we can pull in the trucks. And then when you saw a person doing this, like, did I drink that much? I thought I parked here. And then we'd say, excuse me, you looking for your car? And they go, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I said, don't worry. We did you a favor. We just towed it to the end of the road. We didn't tow it to the yard where you would have to pay $200. Just, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And
hey.
So they weren't mad you moved their vehicle. They were thinking, yay, I don't have to pay, and it's still conveniently right there. But we would just tow it across the street or at the end of where our trucks needed to be.
Wow. That's very smart. That's great. What was it like meeting fans and doing the location tours for the show?
I liked it. You mean after I was over and done off of Stargate? I liked doing those. Yeah, it was lots of fun, and man, they would outsmart me. They'd be on that bus. And again, I was a few years out of it, and they'd say, so when so-and-so dipped his toe in the water, was this at a pool or was it right at Stokes? And I'm like, when did he do that? They named the episode, in the second part of this episode, I'd like, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
But I'd have to look at the scene.
Now we can pull it up on our phones and say, where is this?
Yes.
You have a better shot of, okay, yeah, it's one of these two places.
Yeah, or they would correct me. I'd say something. They'd say, I don't think so. I think you did that at such and such because when you turned around like you, right? I saw the red on the building or whatever. I go, okay, you're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But then I started to really do a lot of prep for those bus tours because they paid a lot. So I didn't want to just sit there on a mic, this, that, the other thing. I started to get the buses that would have the VCR. I'd have the tape of the show and I'd put it in and I'd literally have my notes go to 6-minute 28-second mark.
Wow, look at you.
Yep, as we were heading to that location. So they would see the scene maybe at the art gallery and then I would stop it and then we'd arrive at the art gallery and then we'd talk about the scene. So I tried to do that. And I started having a silent auction. Like I'd have maybe a Stargate hat. I had toques made. I shaved my head to raise money for cancer. And I had toques made that Stargate. And then Richard said to John, I'll give you X amount of money if you shave your head on the day. John was not prepared for that. So he did. And then I did. And then 2 weeks later, we moved into a new neighborhood. And I had to location manage my own neighborhood going, hey, we're John and Lynn Smith. We just moved here and we are not Hare Krishnas. We shaved our heads for cancer. Anyway, long story short, I had toques made and they were beautiful. I still have some. And so I would bring one of those on the bus and I'd bring something else and I would silent auction them. And by the end of that bus tour, sometimes people would pay $100, $200 for whatever I had, signed script or whatever. And then I'd give that to charity. So yeah, so it was fun. We made it more than it was cut out to be, those bus tours. It was fun.
Tell me about going to the Arctic. What an experience. We've talked with Barry Campbell, who set it up.
It still sits front and center. Yeah, I love that. I was not location manager when we went there.
Yeah, the show was over. So you were doing DVD movies at this point. Arc of Truth and Continuum were both done in 2000. This was 2008, I believe, 2007. What an amazing experience. What was it like finding out this is happening, and would you like to go?
Yeah. So my title was sort of photography.
Yeah.
Take pictures of things happening, and so
you worked with Ivan a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we had a great time. That was an experience from traveling with Richard there to almost being weathered out, getting there, to the whole prep of it, learning that you can only have a little tiny bit in those, 40 and more below weather with wind chill. Like, it was such a exciting situation, just the prep and having to put cream on every little inch of your face. And then because it was military that allowed us to go there, I couldn't stay in a hut with John. You can't male female this up. So
you were with Amanda.
I was with Amanda. And who else was I with? Couple of the gals, hair and makeup.
Oh,
I
okay.
think. But we learned that when you wake up in the morning, we'd say, "Oh, why is there like a window in the door?" That's kind of silly. You're on the well, because you have to peek out there and make sure the ice before you open that door and step out, that the ice hasn't broken throughout the night and you're stepping bye-bye.
And
So,
polar bears.
well, polar bears, yeah, and they're top of the food chain, so you don't just they have to almost have your head in their mouth before the guy can, you know, tranquilize them. He's not going to shoot them, he's going to tranquilize. But we had a guy at the ready to do that. And even the submarine coming up, X marks the spot really is. I mean, there's an X. And I don't know how they do it. You know, there's currents and all this kind of stuff, but they come up with that X.
Yeah, it was the second or third try, and it was the last one, and they got it.
Yes.
I can't imagine what that even felt like coming up through the ice beneath you. You know?
I know, I get little shivers even you bringing it up right now. And the meals and how they coordinated that. I still have a recipe book from that gal that made the meals. The ice, like blue.
Yeah.
And chopping the ice. We put styrofoam cups. Oh my God, I think I have our styrofoam cup. One moment.
Yeah.
Because we put it down. We have a lot of West Coast Native art in our house. So we have lots of little cabinets but.
Aww.
Right? There's
Hapless.
and Rick and Ben and
Man,
so that's 2007. And then I put one down for our family because we were putting them down and then they were just like, and then you would bring them up and then get to keep this. So yeah. So there we are. There's the Northwest reading.
Yeah. How many days were you up there?
I don't know. John, how many days were we in North Pole? 4? 6.
Wow.
Got a good memory.
Man, oh man. I can't imagine how itinerant you had to be, how careful you had to be. There were certain shots that you guys just, I know that there was like a must-have shot list, and it's, this would be awesome if we could get these. And Martin Wood was just brilliant.
Yeah.
How you guys pulled that off at that temperature, and you set a record, I think.
Yes, it's on our wall here as well. It's on our wall. And also, what we were told. But not that you don't believe, but you realize how important it is. We couldn't work at the pace that you work anywhere else, in a studio or on the streets or in snow. I mean, you would run to get some. Oh, can you go get me that? And someone stop running. It was a very serious thing. It's like walk slow. You can't just speed up the game when you're in the North Pole. But yes, you want to see this.
Absolutely, I want to see this.
There's 2 on the wall.
Yeah.
But here's the one.
Wow. The 8, 15 to 20 minute long webisodes of Sanctuary. Okay, so this is Sanctuaries.
That was Sanctuary, and then there's another. We have both.
Okay. The Guinness World Record. Wow. Well done, Sanctuary. I'm trying to get Damian Kindler on the show. I've had trouble reaching him. Wow. The longest running TV sci-fi series is Stargate SG-1, which has notched up over 203 consecutive episodes since first being aired in 1997. To N. John Smith, executive producer. That is so cool.
Yeah, we don't have much Stargate stuff in our house, but we have a few here, right? Here's another. That's the last one.
Ran without a break for 10 seasons. The first episode, Children of the Gods, broadcast 27th July 97 in 2006 with the episode 203, Company of Thieves. It beat the X-Files Fox, which ran for 202 episodes. Yeah, and I'll never forget the day that Smallville dethroned you guys. It's like, but you had it. You guys got it, and that no one can take that from you.
That's right.
Lynn, this has been a treat for me. I'm really thrilled that we got to sit down and talk.
Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. That was Lynn Smith, location coordinator for Stargate SG-1, seasons 2 through 6. And as you heard as well, she was also involved in Stargate Continuum. I was really excited to have her perspective on the show in terms of the back end and how a lot of this stuff gets made. This is why I do Dial the Gate, to get these stories and hear really how the cake is baked, because there's a lot that goes into our favorite shows. Before I let you go, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, Stargate content, click the like button. It makes a difference and will help continue to grow our audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this episode will be released over the course of the next few weeks on the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. That's all I've got for you this episode. My thanks to my moderating team, Summer, Tracy, Jeremy, and Marcia as well for bringing this episode together. Big thanks to Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web. He keeps the website up and running. And Bryce and Matt, Eagle SG, my talented VFX team. They keep those all the parts of the show going. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and I'll see you on the other side.